Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Chaos Dwarves and Tzeentch here in the Changer's Madhouse. It's going to be myself with Astrogoth facing off against Harrison, who's going to be rocking a Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch up on his disc. It should be quite a bit of fun. We got the old Infernal Guard Fireglaves, one of my favorite units in the game, and pretty cool in tabletop as well. But the really funny thing about this matchup is, on this map, you can do some crazy Vanguard basically on top of your opponent's army. So, considering the fact that we are in the realm of Tzeentch here, certainly in his natural habitat, it would make sense that the Chaos Dwarves do get outmaneuvered and ambushed here. So my Hobgoblins do get jumped immediately by a quad ambush of Marauder Horsemen. So they're going to be retreating away, certainly eating that one pretty badly. As far as the rest of the Tzeentch army goes, it's going to be full Vanguard. So we do have Zangors, and Zangors backed up by a couple Marauders in the backfield. And the Lord here is going to be a Disc Master with blue fire. So he's just going to be dropping some hot blue fires on me. Now, for my army here in the front, it's going to be Goblins backed up by Chaos Dwarf Warriors, which honestly do pretty well. Like rank and file Chaos Dwarf Warriors can hang and just honestly probably beat a Zangor unit. Let's see. So 7.8 against 9.6. That's a big difference, actually. Stat line is 29.38 against 30.44. So stat line advantage for the Chaos Dwarf. And on top of that, the weapon strength 34 against 30. So they do have the stat advantage in many regards. They do also have fire resist. Zangors don't do fire damage. It's actually an interesting one. The Zangor probably would actually maybe edge it out once the Arcane Charge starts to build up because it gives them additional armor piercing. But yeah, for what it is, the Chaos Dwarf Warriors can get up there. They can hold for a long time, allowing your other units like your War Machines and your guns to do the heavy lifting, which is usually how it goes anyways. But yeah, decent holding power on those. In the back, we do have one of my favorite units in this matchup, which is the Infernal Guard. Now, the big issue with these guys is if they get caught by vortexes, so if your opponent is using big bombardment spells, the Tzeentch army ability, that is where you're going to be having a really, really, really bad time. So we're going to be trying to avoid that. And if you can, they're really good. They can shoot against the Horsemen, they can counter the Centaurs, they can shoot Screamers. Anything really on the roster aside from the Shielded Infantry is a good target for them. And Astro Chad is, I think, the best choice in this matchup because if you go with the big Bale Taurus, what's going to happen is you're going to basically get taken out by the Tzeentch anti-large character. So the more meta build in this matchup that I was expecting from my opponent, but he didn't actually bring it, is the Exalted Hero of Tzeentch on, I think he could be on a disc also with the Chaos Lord of Tzeentch because they can shut down the big threats that the Chaos Dwarfs can have via the Bale Taurus as well as Sniper Artillery. So Astrogoth is better there because he's infantry size, so the anti-large bonus isn't really a threat against him, and he can honestly beat them pretty hard in fights. And Flamestorm is an amazing spell against Tzeentch. It's really good against the lightly armored Zangors as well as all their various demons and marauders. So that is it for my build, and hopefully you guys enjoyed my TED Talk here. Now, as far as the build goes, here in the front in Vanguard, it's just 3 of the Hobo Riders. We do also call in 1 Hobo Goblin with a spear to push back his horsemen, because I wanted to get my objective back here very quickly, so we are going to be doing that. And the rest of the Chorf army is going to be valiantly, or I guess deviously advancing forward. I actually just played in a tabletop tournament with the Chaos Dwarves, actually tied for first place with one of my buddies, so it was a really, really fun event. Chaos Dwarves are awesome in tabletop. Their infantry aren't the best. They're okay, I suppose. Some of the guns can occasionally get some work done, but their artillery and their monsters, and yeah, a lot of fun stuff that they can do for sure. So Astrogoth's going to be advancing up. The idea is to send Astrogoth in and let your opponent kind of surround him and then use a big Flamestorm right on top of his head. That's usually the strategy you want to be doing with that bad boy. Tzeentch doesn't have the best tools for taking down Astrogoth. I mean, there are a couple Tzeentchian elements that could be good. If they brought in like a Mutilated Vortex Beast, for example, it could be decent, but aside from that, it's hard to kill him. Very, very difficult. I suppose the focus fire, maybe if you wanted to spam like blue fire at him, but he does have fire resist of 35%. And blue fire does do fire damage, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm crazy. Yeah, it does fire damage and magic damage, so he's going to be tanky there. So we do charge in, and we drop a Flamestorm, and it's going to be rotating into those guys, doing some okay damage, but he was paying attention. And I do think it was a mistake to maybe use it that early, but at the very least, we might be able to break these Zangors, and I wanted to get through their shields, butter them up a little bit. And this is my favorite thing in this matchup, is the Iron Demon. Now, these things are very vulnerable against like large targets, but the Iron Demon can charge in there. It has a great anti-infantry bonus. Its shooting is very effective, and it's a great tool for killing mass amounts of Zangors and Marauders, which are usually going to be spammed in this matchup, because most people, when they play Chaos Dwarves, are like, oh, he's going to be using artillery, so I'm going to go super wide and swarm him and press him back. But in this case, the Iron Demon is going to be able to kind of handle the typical threats that you would see against an artillery build. So the Warriors are fighting here, big bombardment in the back, and this is exactly what I had feared, was the big vortex. Granted, we do partially dodge it, so a lot of the Infernal Guard Fireglaves do get out of it, but a handful of them are going to be caught, and they're going to be brought down to about half health. Hey, it's just like tabletop, elite infantry getting karate chopped by magic. It's always fun. But I think Elite Infantry are actually much better in Total War Warhammer than I do I think in Tabletop. Elite Infantry are basically just a non-starter for competitive play. But, I mean, there are a couple lists that can make them work a little bit. So the Iron Demon has arrived, and it's going to be shooting its Gatling gun and melee and running these guys over. But Tzeentch is going to be responding by throwing some javelins at this thing. But it is able to mow down a lot of those bad boys. And it looks like we do get a full rout on the Zangor. So it's done its job getting one Zangor down. Now it's going to be turning about face, putting some downtown fire on the Marauder Horsemen and moving into the Marauders here. In response, Harrison calls out the Shrieking Sky Rays, which is a good call, but the Iron Demon is pretty maneuverable, especially when you use more power, the full steam, baby. We're going to be steaming out of there trying to push away. So in the backfield, we do have our firepower doing okay here against some of the advancing Sangors. And the Infernal Guard Fireglaves, hands down my favorite unit, going to be forming ranks, and you can see the Iron Demon in the distance. This is like actually how my tabletop list works. I use the Iron Demons in the front to be like a tank, and then I have my guns in the back like shooting and covering firing. It's super, super cool here. So the Zangors do get run over a little bit. You can see currently their leadership starting to tank. The Iron Demon, I believe they do cause terror as well, which is going to be nice. So we basically call in an expendable Hobo Goblin in tandem with the Iron Demon, should be able to finish them off. So back objective we have pretty firm, just using my Infernal Guard to value trade from a distance. You got to be careful on this map. There's a lot of weird hills. My opponent does call in the Changebringers, which are very, very menacing. So I need to call out my one artillery piece, which I do bring in this matchup, which is going to be the Deathstreaker Rocket Launcher. So firepower going down to the Chaos Dwarf Warriors there, as well as the Iron Demon, and it does a little bit of work, but Changebringers are going to be forced back. These Chaos Dwarf Warriors standing surprisingly resilient on the point. I was expecting them to kind of fold up, but now the Deathstreak Rocket Launcher basically going to be sitting on the Changebringers the entire game. We're just going to be watching them, and on the outside we do get some Centaurs being called in, but that's why I bring the Infernal Guard Fireglaves, and I always try to make a pretty big effort to keep them deep set, so that when the Centaurs do arrive, I can usually get some volley fire on them. So the rocket did make contact and did not kill a Changebringer, unfortunately, but did knock down their shield. So I'm hoping over the course of the game I can get some work done there. A couple Hobgoblins arriving at the middle, trying to provide some capture weight. Meanwhile, I do have two Iron Demons out now. So we got two Iron Demons on the field. Here in the back, I have my Fireglade, making sure my back objective doesn't get compromised. So you can see the Centaurs are kind of, they're predators here. They're looking for an opportunity to kind of find something vulnerable, maybe some isolated warriors who are unprotected, something or other. But we are pulling a pretty big value lead. The infantry fight is going very, very well in our favor. The Chaos Dwarf Warriors are beating the Zangors with the support of the Iron Demons. And the Iron Demons are awesome. And it's units I've been kind of sleeping on. I've been playing with them more and more in a lot of matchups, and I just feel they're super, super good. Not that they always get a ton of value, but just like a mobile, terror-causing threat that's very, very tough to remove because it's an SC, right? Like, whereas like a heavy cav unit's going to be losing effectiveness as it does lose models. These things, their effectiveness, sure, it does have the wounded profile, but overall, they still do pretty considerable work. So they're able to mow down the Shrieking Sky Rays here, and I do make a play for his back objective, feeling that I'm pretty head on value, 5,000 against 2.3. So the two Hobo Goblins are going to be coming out of the flank, and he is going to be coming to fight me with the Marauder Horseman, and I do countercharge at the last second. And the Hobo Goblins should have an advantage here, 26, 26, 28 against 22, 20, 24, but he does have the numerical advantage. But the other Hobo Goblin arriving should be able to get the job done there. Meanwhile, the Fireglaves have now advanced up. So we have the high ground position, and they should be able to get some decent targets, so shooting at some of the Zangors who do kind of extend themselves in the formation. And my opponent does call in some Chaos Spawn, so a little bit scary there. And the Iron Demons are both pretty good. I have grouped them up at this point, just running over any Zangors I can find. And the back objective isn't going to fly. We're not going to be able to get that. He is going to be able to stabilize that using his Centaurs, which are going to be very dominant here, but we get a fat Flame Storm. Astragoth going to be cooking these bad boys up, and if you guys want some nice barbecue, there it is. So Flamestorm is honestly an amazing spell. For 13 wins magic, look at the value we just got. It basically just did 1,000 damage worth of value for us and pushed those guys off into the Shadow Realms. I don't think I have Oglacon's Boise's game for the fire weakness, but even still, Kindle Flame's able to get it done, and now we are going to be moving on to the point, trying to grab that, while Tzeentch is going to be making a play for the middle. Forsaken, Spawn, as well as basic Marauders, and the remnants of the Changebringers are advancing up, but the Deathstreaker will get them eventually. It's going to take a while, but you can see the shots are adding up, and there should be a rocket coming in, and boom, one of the Changebringers does go down. It's something, you know. In the hands of good players like my opponent, who of course is a very, very strong tournament player, you know, any little scrap of value you can get there is good, and he's microing them pretty well, keeping them out of range of my Fireglaves, but they do get a little bit danger close now, to the point where maybe I'm going to be able to form ranks with the Infernal Guard and put some firepower down on them. We'll have to see. Another shot through the heart, and two of those bad boys do fall, so the Changebringers are now hemorrhaging models pretty quickly. Iron Demons have fallen back in a bit of a defensive posture and are going to be rolling through some of the filthy Zangors here. And yeah, they do get some good work done, shaken, wavering, as the Chaos Dwarf Warriors do rally behind their Iron Demons and their big machines. Super cool stuff. And I think that the Forsaken will not be too much of an issue considering the effectiveness of the Iron Demons as heavy chariots against the old Forsaken. So the back objective is looking good. There are some Forsaken and some Furies on their way out, but Astrogoth is going to be basically able to hard counter those Forsaken pretty well. However, there are some reinforcements via the Marauders here and these Furies, so we're going to have to see how this all turns out. Back to the middle, Changebringers have dove pretty deeply trying to finish off the Iron Demons. Iron Demons actually put them in fire mode and was having them shoot up in the air at those things, but the Fireglaves do set their sights on them, and they are going to be fire reload firing as they get some excellent volley fire, and you do see the Changebringers finally falling to the warp. So value 9.4 against 5.3, with Protoss healing probably 9.5 against like 6.2, somewhere in that ballpark. And here Astro Chad is able to get a big punishing shot there on those Forsaken, and I'm telling you, Flamestorm is a really slept on spell. Able to melt several infantry units, but we are going to be having to see this objective because of the reinforcements from the Weird Spawn, as well as the Zangors and the Centaurs of Tzeentch. I have to be careful not to slip up. You know, if a couple Centaurs of Tzeentch get a little bit too hog wild, I could start to slip in value. You never know. With value against Tzeentch, you have to be really careful because of their weird healing mechanic. Sometimes you think you're ahead and the value's like very even if it's like a couple thousand because of the healing on their shields. It's very nuts. So advancing up are the Bull Centaur Renders, and I think they're a unit you want to bring maybe one of in this matchup. They're pretty good against, you know, things like Spawn, of course, but against Centaurs of Tzeentch and a number of other big threats. So it gives me some good staying power on the objective. The Bull Centaurs are also very tanky. They have almost 10,000 HP, which is pretty heavy metal. Another blue fire going to be going down as the Iron Demons do secure the backfield. The Tzeentchian Wizard able to finally get his killing blow on that Iron Demon. And now we do have our rockets shooting into the Weird Spawn, so hopefully we'll be able to drag him down. But Weird Spawn are pretty meaty. They have a bit of HP, but the Deathstreak rocket launcher has done great work for me this game as the Screamer is called in. You can see Tzeentch is really lacking a ground-based presence. They have the Spawn, but really not much else, right? Like, they're pretty bare bones on the battlefield. And now the Iron Troops of Hashut are going to be advancing up as the Infernal Guard Fireglaive move to take the high ground once again. Going to be setting their sights on the advancing Screamers, and hopefully they'll be able to get some shots here. You guys know you love some Chaos Dwarf gun lines. It's the coolest thing. So there they go, ripping some good ones into the Weird Spawn. And we do have the Bull Centaurs in here. Bull Centaurs should be a pretty ample counter against most of these units. They are taking a bit of damage, though. Tzeentch does have really good anti-large, and these are the Shrieking Sky Rays, so certainly need to get some reinforcements up there if I can. Another blue fire going to be going into the old Iron Demon back here. And in the backfield, the Chaos Furies were able to chase down the last of my horsemen. So we do respond by calling out the Hobgoblins, and hopefully the Fireglaves are going to be able to wear down the Spawn. Here we do have the Chaos Lord causing a little bit of disruption. Of course, Wizards on Chaos, just like in Tabletop, are respectable fighters. Like a Chaos Sorcerer Lord in Tabletop, for example, is probably like as strong of a fighter as, like, you know, regular combat generals for a lot of other factions. Like, especially like if you compare them to the Empire General, he's like probably just as good, if not better. So Astrogoth is in here, hanging in, and the Weird Spawn are almost dead. The Shrieking Sky Rays are close to crumbling, and the Forsaken are on death's bed as well. On the backside, we do get some Centaurs of Tzeentch called in, but I do have a good formation here. The Iron Demon should be able to help fight them off if they do decide to attack my Cutthroats here. And the Furies are now going to be landing on top of the Infernal Guard, it looks like, or maybe the Hobo Riders. I think they were going after the Infernal Guard. Shouldn't be too much of an issue, though, with the Iron Demon on its way in and the anti-large capabilities of the Infernal Guard. They might be able to hold against the Centaurs for a moment, although big charge coming in. But once again, the Flamestorms have just been so good this game. And there's going to be another Flamestorm going down. That's going to be cooking the Furies, doing a ton of HP damage against these Centaurs as they do try and retreat. And the Chaos Lord back here is pretty much on his last, not on his last legs. Well, the army is, but he's the last bastion that they do really have. As the Centaurs, or the Bull Centaur Renders, excuse me. I wish in Tabletop they were good against big things. They're really actually quite terrible against big things in Tabletop, but they're able to rip those guys up. We're going for my opponent's back objective. We do have some Forsaken coming in, but overall the Chaos Warriors with great weapons should be able to fight them off with the Iron Demon supporting. And that's basically going to be GG from there, you guys. I'm not going to insult you guys by pretending there's still a game to be had here. We pretty much passed them in score. We're going to be getting the triple cap. Couple Forsaken and Zangors come in. And yeah, this was a really fun match. I've been practicing a lot of Chaos Dwarves offline. You know, my goal this season is to win an SFT with Chaos Dwarves. I think that'd be really fun. I don't think Chaos Dwarves have won an SFT since they came out. Like, when they came out and they had, like, Astrogoth was, like, egregiously overpowered. The Bull Centaur Renders were disgustingly overpowered. They had a lot of things that were just super broken on launch. Magma Cannons were just, like, the most obscene artillery in the entire game. They were winning SFTs back then, but now I don't think they've won one since then, honestly. I really don't. So that's my goal this season, is to get a win for Hashut. So we'll be doing our best. I've been practicing them a bit. So for the build, I think it worked well. I don't know if there was a lot I would change. Obviously, the map would determine the build. Some of the Fireglaves did get wrecked, but it's hard, right? Like, I think you need them. They're really good for keeping Tzeentch mobility and like flying units honest, but the Vortexes are so punishing against them. Astrogoth definitely carried that game, 2,500 on him. And as far as the reinforcements go, Iron Demon 800 and 800, but they terror routed and were able to break a lot of positions. So I don't think their value is super reflective of what they brought to the table. 1,800 here on this, which is of course a necessity against the meta of Changebringers, and the anti-large bull renders help to kind of close out the game there. For my opponent's build, I still think that the other build is a lot better, the Chaos Lord and the Exalted Hero, and then you just bring in a Wizard as your third hero choice, as your second hero choice, excuse me. But having those two anti-large assassins, you just, you would not fight Astrogoth, but you would just use them to hunt down the Iron Demons and to hunt down artillery. They're just so hard to kill, and you could even sit them on top of the Fireglaves and they can shut them down for a long time. So little things like that I think would be stronger for sure. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. We'll see you guys on the other side. That is it. Adios, do widzenia, and we'll see you on the other side. Cheers.